Big night, guys. Let's start fast and let's compete. 60 minutes. Let's go win on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
You knew who he was the minute he walked out on the field. He was the figurehead. He was number 8.
He's the engine that drove the machine.
In January 1994, Troy Aikman woke up in a Dallas hospital room with no memory of where he was, who he'd played, or why he was there. Complete amnesia. He couldn't piece together a single moment from the game. 7 days later, he started the Super Bowl. They called him a game manager. Game manager.
Snap is back, Rams blitz, loop to the right side of the end zone, touchdown Cowboys!
Not a franchise cornerstone, not a danger, just a disposable piece of plumbing. Smart enough not to break the machine, but never trusted to actually drive it. They said he was carried by Emmitt Smith, carried by Michael Irvin, carried by the Great Wall of Dallas, carried by Jimmy Johnson. They said Aikman's job was simple. Hand it to Emmitt, throw it to Irvin, stay out of the way. Don't screw it up.
A supersonic laser blast from Aikman to Irvin.
They said any quarterback with those pieces wins Super Bowls. But here is what the game manager crowd never explains. From 1992 through 1995, Aikman posted a 106.3 passer rating, 21 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions across 11 playoff games.
Aikman with time, long ball, touchdown!
The NFL average that era was around 75. He was 30 points above it when a Super Bowl was on the line. That doesn't sound like a game manager. That sounds like a killer who made it look like nothing. Troy Aikman. Was he really just carried by Dallas's super team? Let's find out. So how did a kid from Henrietta, Oklahoma become the most disrespected Hall of Famer in NFL history? And why does his legacy still get buried under everyone else's headline? The quarterback everyone says was carried. Before we defend Aikman, the critics aren't entirely wrong. Troy Aikman finished his career with 32,942 passing yards, 165 touchdowns, 141 interceptions, a 61.5 completion percentage, and a career passer rating of 81.6.
I'm a big stats guy. The thing about Troy Aikman that is tough to get past is the fact that he had one season in his career where he had more than 20 touchdowns. 20 touchdowns, that's very pedestrian.
Those numbers don't put him in the same sentence as Dan Marino for volume. They don't match Steve Young for peak efficiency. They don't create Montana mythology. And by today's inflated quarterback standards, they barely get him a conversation. And the Cowboys? They were not just good. They were generationally loaded. Emmitt Smith was a 4-time NFL rushing champion, en route to becoming the all-time leading rusher.
To the 20, touchdown, Emmitt Smith, 75 yards.
Michael Irvin, the playmaker, was a Hall of Fame wideout who combined freight train strength with trash-talking bravado that made him the most feared receiver in the NFC.
What a throw this is! And it's caught! Touchdown! He caught it at the 2! Perfectly thrown ball!
The Great Wall of Dallas, Nate Newton, Eric Williams, Mark Stepnoski, Mark Tuinei, and eventually Larry Allen, who once bench-pressed 700 pounds while dumbfounded teammates watched, was arguably the most dominant offensive line ever assembled. Jay Novacek and fullback Darrell Moose Johnston rounded out a supporting cast other franchises could only dream about. Jimmy Johnson was the head coach. Jerry Jones had the checkbook. So the anti-Aikman argument is powerful. Maybe he wasn't the reason the Cowboys dynasty existed. Maybe he was the luxury item attached to greatness, the interchangeable quarterback who happened to be standing in the right place when history was made. But here is the question nobody who makes it ever answers. If the system did all the work, why did it take Troy Aikman specifically to make it run? The most thankless job in the dynasty. To answer that, you have to go back before any of this existed. Back to a 1-15 team. Back to a quarterback who hadn't won a single professional game. Back to the beginning.
They're wanting to go to Irvin. They got him. Touchdown, Dallas.
Troy Kenneth Aikman was born November 21, 1966, in West Covina, California. When he was 12, his family moved to Henrietta, Oklahoma, population around 6,000. The California kid had to rebuild himself from scratch in a town where nobody cared where you were from. In Henrietta, you earned respect on Friday nights under the lights. You outworked everyone, said little, and let the results do the talking. Troy Aikman learned that lesson early. It would define how he played quarterback for the rest of his life. After a broken ankle derailed his sophomore season at the University of Oklahoma,
Aikman to throw again, and Jerome Brown's after him, and he's got it.
Aikman transferred to UCLA. At Westwood, he became the best quarterback in the country. He won the 1988 Davy O'Brien Award as the nation's top quarterback. He led the Bruins to a Cotton Bowl victory over Arkansas.
For UCLA, and Aikman rolls to the wide field, throws to the corner, touchdown.
He left as the third-rated passer in NCAA history. On April 23, 1989, Dallas selected him with the first overall pick.
Cowboys select Troy Aikman, quarterback, UCLA.
The Cowboys were coming off a 3-13 season. Jerry Jones had just bought the team, fired the legendary Tom Landry, and handed the keys to first-year head coach Jimmy Johnson. What happened next is either the most humbling story in NFL draft history or the most revealing one. Week 1, New Orleans Saints. Final score, Saints 28, Cowboys 0. The first overall pick was shut out in his NFL debut. 0 points. Nothing. The following week, Aikman threw his first NFL touchdown pass, a 65-yard strike to Michael Irvin.
Out of the shotgun. Complete to Michael Irvin.
The crowd roared. It felt like the beginning of something. Then the Falcons intercepted 2 more passes and won anyway. That became the theme of 1989, a flash of something real, followed by a loss, and another, and another. He finished 0-11 as a starter. The Cowboys went 1-15, 18 interceptions, 9 touchdowns, a passer rating of 55.7. He was 22 years old on the worst team in the NFL, and serious people in Dallas were already asking whether the Cowboys had wasted the first overall pick. But Aikman came back every week. More film, more reps, more punishment. He never asked out, never held out, never demanded a trade. He just worked. By 1991, the Cowboys went 11-5, their first winning season in 6 years. Aikman completed 65.3% of his passes, best in the entire NFC. Dallas made the playoffs for the first time since 1985. And then they went to Detroit, the Silver Dome, January 5th, 1992. NFC Divisional Round. The Lions annihilated them 38-6. Not a lesson, a demolition. Dallas was shut out in the second half. Aikman was harassed and rattled. The Dynasty was assembling its pieces, but it wasn't ready. Detroit showed Dallas exactly how far they still had to go. The Dynasty was coming, but nobody was going to hand it to Aikman, and nobody was going to give him credit for building it. When the game got bigger, so did Troy. The 1992 season, 13-3, the most dominant offense in the NFC, and a defense transformed by one trade, Charles Haley, arriving from San Francisco, already holding 2 Super Bowl rings.
Rob Awalt working on Cascade, and a fumble caught by Jimmy Jones, a touchdown.
Helping transform Dallas from 17th in total defense to 1st in a single season. This was not just a contender. This was a dynasty machine. But to become a dynasty, the Cowboys had to go through San Francisco. The 49ers were the gold standard. 4 Super Bowl titles in the 1980s. Steve Young, Jerry Rice, a franchise that had owned the NFC for a decade. Every analyst gave San Francisco the edge. With the score 24-20 and less than 5 minutes remaining, the Cowboys faced a defining moment. Every analyst expected Dallas to run the ball, hand it to Emmitt, bleed the clock, play scared and protect the lead. Aikman stepped to the line, read the defense, made the call, and threw. He attacked down the sideline to wide receiver Alvin Harper. He'd later admit it was underthrown. It was really an underthrown ball, Aikman said. But it was Alvin Harper being Alvin Harper. He went up and took it away from them. 70 yards.
Aikman quickly. The pass to Harper. Harper off to the races. They're going to run him down, however.
The Cowboys' own website called it, and these are their exact words, a 70-yard play that ignited a dynasty. The clinching touchdown followed. Cowboys 30, 49ers 20. Jimmy Johnson grabbed a microphone in front of a national television audience and screamed, "How about them Cowboys?"
How about them Cowboys?
The dynasty had a name, and the game manager had just made the biggest throw of the season. 2 weeks later, Super Bowl 27, Buffalo making their third straight appearance, Dallas making their first in 15 years. Troy Aikman went out and embarrassed them. 22 of 30 passes, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Aikman. Novacek touchdown!
Cowboys 52, Bills 17. Super Bowl MVP, the man they called a game manager, delivering the most efficient Super Bowl performance the league had seen in years.
17 for Aikman. He goes deep and a catch at the 33-yard line.
And do you know what happened next? They still called him a game manager because Emmitt had 108 rushing yards, because Irvin was Irvin, because the line opened the holes, because Jimmy Johnson built the roster, and because Troy Aikman did it all so calmly, so efficiently, so without drama, that people looked at 52-17 and somehow saw everyone's fingerprints except his. That is Aikman's curse. He made greatness look routine. Troy Aikman. Was he really just carried by Dallas's Superteam? Keep watching. Now here is the moment that ends this debate. January 23, 1994, NFC Championship, Texas Stadium. Cowboys versus 49ers for the second straight year. Dallas storms to a 28-7 halftime lead. Everything is rolling.
Here comes a blitz from San Francisco, but Aikman fires, caught by Irvin in front of Sanders.
Then, on the third snap of the second half, 49ers defensive end Dennis Brown drives his knee directly into Troy Aikman's skull. Aikman crumples to the turf.
And a guy kind of like dives over his head, but his knee grazes his helmet.
He never comes back. Backup Bernie Kosar finishes the game. Dallas wins 38-21. But here is the part that should make you stop and sit with it. When Aikman woke up in that Dallas hospital room, his agent, Lee Steinberg, was beside him. Aikman looked at him and said, "Lee, where am I? You're in the hospital. Why am I here? You suffered a concussion today. Who did we play? The 49ers. Did we win? Yes, you won. What does that mean? It means you're going to the Super Bowl." 5 minutes later, Aikman turned to Steinberg again, still confused, and asked, "What am I doing here?" Complete amnesia. He told Dan Patrick on national radio years later,
I have complete amnesia from the 93 championship game.
"I have complete amnesia of the 93 title game." The Cowboys were headed to their second consecutive Super Bowl. The city was celebrating, and the franchise quarterback was lying in a hospital bed, unable to remember where he was, why he was there, who he had played, or that Dallas was going to the Super Bowl. 1 week later, Aikman started Super Bowl 28 in Atlanta, completed 19 of 27 passes for 207 yards. The Cowboys trailed 13-6 at halftime, then erupted for 21 unanswered points in the second half to win 30-13. Second Super Bowl ring.
Aikman comes out throwing, and down the middle he goes to Irvin, and he's got it at the 40.
No complaints, no theatrics, no drama, just wins.
Great as those teams were, none of it works if Aikman's not there.
Cowboys are back on top of the mountain now.
And then, right at the moment the dynasty should have been eternal, it nearly tore itself apart. After Super Bowl 28, at the victory celebration, Jerry Jones told reporters he could find 500 coaches who could have won the Super Bowl with the Cowboys' talent. Jimmy Johnson heard it. The partnership had been fracturing for months. Two egos who had built something extraordinary together and couldn't agree on who deserved the credit. That comment was the final straw. Johnson, the architect who had dragged Dallas from 1-15 to back-to-back champions, walked out the door. Jerry Jones handed the keys to Barry Switzer, a college coach with 0 NFL head coaching experience, and told the football world it wouldn't matter. Troy Aikman lost the one coach who had built the offense around his strengths, and almost nobody talks about what that actually cost him. In 1994, with Switzer on the sideline, the Cowboys went 12-4 and reached the NFC Championship for the third straight year, where San Francisco was waiting with Deion Sanders, signed specifically to end the Dallas Dynasty. The Cowboys fell behind 21-0 in the first quarter and 31-14 by halftime.
Ricky Jackson on the rush. Going deep. Michael Irvin, touchdown, Dallas.
They fought back within 10, but San Francisco answered, and Dallas eventually lost 38-28. The most realistic bid for 3 consecutive Super Bowls in NFL history gone. Years later, Troy Aikman told NFL Films that loss was the game he was most proud of in his entire career. Not the Super Bowl MVPs, not the 3 rings, the defeat. "It's the game I'm most proud of, as strange as that sounds," he said. "I'm proud of the way we responded, and I believe we showed the football world why it was that we had been champions." That is the character of the man they called a game manager. In 1995, Dallas made it all the way back. Jerry Jones signed Deion Sanders away from San Francisco for a record $35 million, turning the most feared corner in football into a weapon for Dallas instead of against it.
One of the big stories, obviously, in the NFL this weekend was the signing of Deion Sanders by the Dallas Cowboys. $13 million signing bonus, 5 years, $35 million. Rick, tell us about it. Huge, huge.
Sanders joined Darren Woodson, the best strong safety in the NFL, Charles Haley, and one of the deepest defenses in league history. The Cowboys went 12-4 again, and in Super Bowl 30, Dallas beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 27-17.
Aikman to pass on first and goal from the 3, wide open, Jay Novacek, touchdown!
3 Super Bowl rings in 4 years. 90 wins in the 1990s, the most by any starting quarterback in any single decade in NFL history. Not Montana's decade, not Marino's decade, not Favre's decade. Troy Aikman's decade.
Football's about winning championships, and Troy was 3 for 3.
The dynasty driver, Troy Aikman. Was he really just carried by Dallas's Superteam? No, but he wasn't carrying them the way people demand today. Not with volume, not with chaos, not by making himself the story. He carried them with control, precision, discipline. A dynasty quarterback carries a different burden. He has to win the games everyone expects him to win. He has to avoid the one mistake that cracks the empire. He has to make the third down throw when the defense finally stops Emmitt. He has to take the hit, absorb the blame, share none of the credit, and survive a concussion that steals his memory and still start the Super Bowl 7 days later without blinking.
Aikman play action fake, slips, gets up, throws a deep ball. Harper's all alone. Caught it at the 5, touchdown!
Aikman played inside the system so perfectly that people now think the system played without him. He sacrificed statistics so the Cowboys could become a dynasty. He made everything look inevitable. And inevitable never gets the credit that chaos does. You can say it was the line, but the line didn't throw 4 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. You can say it was Emmitt, but Emmitt didn't throw that 70-yard strike with the dynasty on the line. You can say it was Irvin, but Irvin didn't wake up with amnesia and start the Super Bowl 7 days later. You can say it was Jimmy Johnson, but Johnson didn't post a 106.3 playoff rating across 11 postseason games. Troy Aikman did. He retired in 2000 at 34, the concussions making the decision for him. On August 6, 2006, he walked into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Not because voters were generous, because 12 years of evidence had piled so high there was nothing left to argue. He made the hardest job in football look simple, and they're still calling him a game manager. A man who woke up with no memory of where he was, started a Super Bowl 7 days later, and won, is not a game manager. That might be the most disrespected quarterback legacy in NFL history. If this hit different, smash that like button and subscribe to End Zone Exposed. Drop your answer in the comments. Take Aikman's arm, his precision, his ice-water composure, and put him on any other 1990s roster, without the line, without Emmitt, without Irvin. Do the quarterbacks who get called elite do better? I want that debate. And if you haven't watched our Emmitt Smith video yet, it's right there in the playlist. Subscribe. You don't want to miss what we do to Michael Irvin next. End Zone Exposed is where the truth always scores.